Robert back here. Today in the vise we got a vintage 3 of 69 Sears. Can't remember the model. It's like 476. So let's tear into this thing. They make these in several different models. They got single mantles, dual mantles, which this is a dual, and make them in different colors. They come in the red, the green, and the blue, which I've got the blue here. And I have wanted one of these in my collection for the longest time. I finally was able to get one. Not the best shape in the world, but it's not in the worst shape either. It's got some rust on it, which we will use a brass bristle brush and get off what we can of that. So she's going to have some character for now, and depending on how well she cleans up, I may in the future tear it back down again, and if I can find a paint to match this close enough, which is really hard to do. The Chrysler blue was the match that they discontinued, so maybe I might be able to have some mixed somewhere or something, but if I can get a paint close enough to match that and a new decal, I may repaint this because I've got a really cool globe to go back in this thing. Okay, as usual, first thing we're going to do, we're going to remove this ball nut off the top. Okay, the vent's not in too bad a shape. It does have 2 chips in it, but I have seen a lot worse, so that's not bad. Of course, it's a Coleman globe, not the original globe. But like I said, I've got something special lined up for that. Okay, this is definitely not the original fuel cap. The original would have been a 3-piece like this, but blue. But for the time being, I will put the old nickel-plated one on it. It will match better than that. Next, I'm going to attempt to remove that screw right there for the main air tube. Last few lanterns I've done on these, we've got lucky on that one. It turned right out with no heat. Drop that in our cup for safekeeping. Okay, this lantern here is why I built this new vise. I didn't have one big enough to hold this. I think it's the same size fount as the 275 turd, same diameter anyway. I'm not sure if it's the same fount or not, but it's pretty close to the same diameter. So that's going to hold in there good. Next step, we want to remove the generator. 7/16 hanging here. Okay, make sure your cleaning lever is turned in the up position. You can lift up on the generator. Lift it straight off. Little hook fell right out. Okay. That don't happen often. That came apart really easy. Check the tip. Good, we still got a tip. So we got a good generator. Which I would assume that's the same thing as the 220 generator, but I'd have to do a little research to make sure. Okay, we'll see if we can get lucky enough to turn these off with no heat. No guarantees on that. Alright, y'all should know the routine by now. Run Run that spring all the way through. You can see in that other hole over there. Run it all the way through the main tube until I can see it turn the corner, and you can see it in the mixing chamber. So that's all clear. We can see right through the burner tubes, so they're in good shape. Okay, to protect these threads, I'm going to thread that generator nut back on that assembly. Next, I'm going to take a 9/16 and try to remove that bolt holding the frame in place. Okay, I've added a piece of leather in there to protect my brass from my tool. For those of you who haven't seen this, that's just a deep well socket, really crude. I just took a grinder, ground out a notch in it, and I use that leather, slide that right down over the valve, and it's perfect for turning out these valves. Okay, this cage is pretty rough, and if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not wrong, this is the same as the Coleman 220 cage. And I think I've got one in a lot better shape than this. Okay, as I expected, they're the same cage. So, like I said, this one's pretty rough. This one's got some light surface rust, but this one's going to clean up really well, a lot better than what this one will. Next thing I want to do is remove this valve wheel. I'm going to go ahead and open that up because that'll make it a little easier to clean that brass after I soak it in vinegar. We should be able to slide that right off there. Collar's in decent shape. A few little scratches on it here. Other than that, it's in nice shape, just dirty. I'm going to heat up that bung to warm up that sealer they put in there, Indian head, whatever they used back in the day. You should be able to just turn that valve out. Turn that heat down just a hair. You don't need all that heat. I'm going to concentrate right on that bung. I'm going to remove that fuel air pickup tube. As you can see, it's pretty corroded, so she definitely needs to come out of there. Should be a 3/8. It's like on the 220s. Go ahead and drop that in our vinegar. It's still warm. We'll drop that in the vinegar. While we got this off, I'm going to give that spring just a little stretch, put a little life back into it. And I'll drop that in the vinegar as well. Okay, I didn't mention, but anytime you're going to use a torch to heat that bung up, make sure your fount is empty of fuel and rinsed out. Which I already done that, so I didn't show it on camera. But just safety, always empty it first. Okay, next step, we're going to remove this pump. Let's take a small screwdriver, gently pry off the retaining ring, or C-clip, whatever you want to call that. Go ahead and throw that in the vinegar as well. I think we can save the leather. It's a little stiff, but I think it's manageable. We'll put that in, soak some neat's foot oil. Okay, now we can turn out the valve stem. That's the larger one. Check both ends of that tool to see which one fits the best. I think that one fits well. I already know it's the... As you can see, that's pretty well corroded too. The ball still rattles, but she can definitely use a good cleaning, so to the vinegar she gets. Okay, this fount is in really rough shape. Starting to get some pretty good rust on it. But for the most part, it's on the surface. I don't think the pitting is going to be too bad. And I want to stop this rust, so I hate to do it. But I'm going to take the brass brush, soft bristle brass brush to this and see how much of that rust I can get off there without destroying too much of the... Okay, like I said, this thing's in rough shape. I got some of the heavier rust off of it, but I'm quitting there for now. Like I said, I'm going to try my best to match this paint up the best I can. This is a candidate for a repaint. So I'll strip all this off and get the rest of that rust off there when I do that. But for the time being, just to get this thing going, I'm going to put a little mother's mag on this paint and buff it out a little bit. Okay, that cage cleaned up pretty decent. Got a little dark patina to it, but all the rust came off. It looks good. I didn't boil that in vinegar. I just soaked it in vinegar about 2 hours and took a bar brush to it, and it cleaned up really well. Okay, now I'm going to take the torch. Got it hanging here. I'm going to take the torch and heat that up. Get it fairly warm and spray her down with a little oil. Okay, I forgot to mention, after I soaked that in vinegar and scrubbed the rust off of it, I did take it outside and I hosed it down really good with a water hose. And then I heated it with the torch and sprayed the oil on it while it was warm. That kind of seasons it and slows the rust down a little bit, so I think it turned out really well. It's got a few scratches in it, but it cleaned up pretty good. Not sure how they scratched that up around that valve like that, behind the valve. Put the rod back inside the fuel pickup tube. Wrong side. Thread that back in. That's that. Apply a little thread locker. That ought to be plenty right there. Slide the collar right back over the valve. Just set the cage back on, and we'll apply the cleaner assembly. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to clock this right. I took pictures and I'm just going to put it back the way it was, so I don't know if anybody's had it apart in the past. But I'm going to just clock it back to where I found it. Thread the burner tubes back in. I just about forgot to tighten down my nut to hold this frame down. Thread our main air tube back in. Okay, I think I've got that lined up where I can get this set screw back in. Now we can reassemble this generator. Slide that cardboard sleeve back over the spring. Feed the needle back through the spring. We'll just slide the whole thing back inside the generator. Put the generator nut back on. Now we're going to feed the generator through the air tube. Going to hook the cleaning rod back into the eccentric block. Drop the generator back down. Make sure it's sitting flush on top of that valve. Tighten it down. Okay, we just want to snug this. We don't want to put a whole lot of pressure on it. Now we can put the check valve back in. Thread that onto the rod of the check valve tool. Okay, I've had that soaking and I've massaged the oil into it. Now I'm just going to apply some fresh neat's foot oil. The valve stem rod back in. Gently feed that leather back into the pump. Now we can reapply our clip. Okay, now we can put a new gasket in the fuel cap. Like I said, I replaced this. This was not the original. It's still not the original, but it's the original style. Only it's nickel instead of blue, because I don't have the blue paint right now. But I like to apply a little oil on my gasket. Okay, this is a tapered 3-piece lid, so it's a little harder to get these in, these tapered ones. Let me show you how bright this thing's going to be. We ain't even got this thing lit yet. See that? It's already attracting bugs. Guess at some point we need to put this valve wheel back on for sure. Go ahead and do that. Okay, I don't have any silk lights, so I guess these Peerless are going to be the next best thing. So I'm told. Guess we need to clean this ventilator up a little bit before we go any farther. Using a 4/0 steel wool. Buff it a little bit. It's got some pretty nasty places on it. See if that steel wool will buff it out of there. I think that's doing it. There appears to be some plastic melted right there. Don't be afraid to take a utility knife to this. This enamel is tough. Alright, told you all I had something special for this one. Check this out. You see it for the light. Justin Adkins down in Monticello. Really appreciate him for making this for me. We done a trade, and he really didn't have time to do this. He's now full-time fire chief, so that's consuming a lot of his life, but he took time out and made this custom Sears globe for me. Really appreciate him. Like I said in the beginning, she's going to have character for now. It's nice and dark outside. I don't know, it's probably midnight or later, 1 o'clock in the morning maybe. I don't know, I haven't looked at the time in a while. My night off, and hey, it's a really nice night out here. It's cool, and not too hot, not too cold. We got an antique Sears putting out some bright light. It don't get much better, except maybe a good cup of coffee. Okay, y'all know the routine. If you like these kind of videos, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and share. All right, thank y'all for watching. God bless.